However, 50 years on, I think we would all say there is still a lot to be done. And frankly, when we look at our home, we've got some pretty serious economic and governance issues. Our papers are full of them every day. When we look around the world, we see the world is moving forward, especially some of our immediate neighbors are moving actually in leaps and bounds, getting near double-digit GDP growth rates. So when we keep all of that in mind, we realize there's a lot that needs to be done even to stay where we are. So we've got issues ahead. Anyway, I think it's always an opportunity, especially when there is an anniversary, it's an opportunity to take stock and to kind of be able to speak to ourselves in candor and in honesty of where we are going wrong, what is it that we need to do, how do we move forward. So this is one such opportunity, and I think we'll all reflect on it as we go forward. I think one thing is quite clear, that ICAP, for its professionalism, for the reputation that it has built, for the infrastructure that it has already in place, I think is greatly positioned to play a role of a catalyst or a lead role in leading this forward. If I was to do what is called a SWOT analysis on Pakistan, I'm sure everyone's familiar with SWOT, what would be the top weakness that would come to mind? I mean, looking at the country as a whole. And it took me no more than 5 seconds to fill that quadrant and say leadership. Leadership is where we've dotted. And when I talk of leadership, frankly, I don't mean to just confine leadership to political leaders, though clearly all of us expect them to be the role model and to demonstrate. But leadership in whatever we all do. Everybody is a leader somewhere, in some form. So perhaps one of the things to say to ourselves on an anniversary like this is that whatever is my own sphere of influence, I want to be able to do something different, better, that will help this whole process of improving, the lot of the people of Pakistan. And I think we can all do something about it. There's no point waiting for others to start, for the political leaders to start. We've got to do it ourselves. And if everybody does that, I think little by little we'll make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, leadership and governance is what I will talk about. And I have 40 years of corporate experience, so I'll draw from that. My talk to you, or whatever I'm going to say, is probably very elementary and very basic. I'm not going to go into anything super deep. It's not a research paper or a strong intellectual document. But based on common sense, based on practices, based on observations, I'd like to share with you some thoughts in that whole area. It said, I was told, that the talk should be for CFOs, for people aspiring to become CFOs and directors. And I'm saying, knowing some of the participants here, clearly you don't need to confine yourselves to being CFOs and directors. You can certainly look to be CEOs and chairmen of major public and private institutions. So it'll be in that context because there's no need to define it there. In my career, I've had obviously lots of opportunities to work with people with the accounting profession. I recall initially most of my seniors or people I was looking up to were chartered accountants qualified from England and Wales. That used to be the way it was. And they were all in powerful and influential positions in the company. Then as the years progressed, we saw accountants coming from our own local institutes And then, as I said, the hordes or the armies of MBAs all came in, and some of them are sitting here and intermingled and started competing and participating. One thing that really stands out for the profession was that in all of these interfaces that I had with the people, they made their mark in the organization. And some of them, I would say, were really very impressive. I mean, you could see, you felt them in the organization. The work output of CAs, we always consider, I'm not a CA, so not from your profession, unfortunately, but like we always considered when we were doing a marketing or an engineering job or whatever, we always looked at a CA like one looks at a doctor. You know, his view, the CA's view was a specialist view. You know, you kind of said, this must be right. And you just like the doctor says, you have to do this, you take that advice seriously. And that's how that perception was, and quite rightly so. Because clearly I've had so many friends myself who opted for the accountancy profession. They were good students, that's my recollection. Those who were well-to-do went abroad, so they got a worldview way back in the 60s. Came back, and the training and the discipline of the institute is quite rigorous. So, you know, you've got the basic material, and, you know, you go through a nice institute where there's discipline and rigor, so you clearly get output that is going to make that kind of an impact. Anyway, I want to get into the text of my presentation. And as you can see from the screens, I've labeled it Career Progression and Governance Expectations from Accounting and Finance Professionals. As I said, it's a very basic presentation. So 2 basic indicators for progression. And whatever I'm giving you from my experience. And I'm trying to put it as simply as I can. I look at 2 indicators, not saying these are the only indicators, but these are 2 important indicators. One, of course, is IQ, which we all know, and the other is the emotional quotient, which is EQ. If an individual is endowed with an IQ and an EQ of a certain level, then I say that's a very strong indicator for what's to come down the road in terms of progression and so on. In case of IQ, of course, IQ ensures the ability to learn the hard skills. That is, what do we mean by hard skills, of course, is to know your profession. So you've got a logical brain, a mind that can rationalize, reason, quick grasp, those sorts of factors which enable you to know your profession well. And that people who are graduates from quality institutions. So when we are out in there hiring people, if there is somebody who's got an strong accounting background from your institute, from one of the leading firms here or overseas, we are pretty assured that IQ is almost a given. It is there. And the reason simply is, it's hard to get into these institutions. They screen you out. The rigor is there. You cannot pass the exams unless you have that basic raw material. So that part is taken care of, the IQ part. However, if you have IQ, that still doesn't mean that it's all done. Because you meet people who are highly intelligent, but awfully lazy. They don't do anything. They don't want to do it. They're not focused. They meander all over the place. So you have to have the IQ, and you also have to have that ability to apply the IQ. That is, be organized, have a focus, look at a vision, and pursue that, and have some motivation to do it. If you have that combination, then a good part of your your physical or mental makeup, personality makeup is taken care of. I come to the other aspect, which is the EQ, the other component that I mentioned. EQ, as you all know, is an indicator of soft skills, and frankly, a pretty important component of the leadership potential.